Former Mayor Blakeney, there we go.
If these people in Washington vote to make this system work, I don't think they have a prayer of being reelected. And I think when you talk about politically feasible, we're also used to Santa Claus. Every one of us in this room are getting all kinds of benefits. And we do not want to pay the taxes it takes to provide them. And so if the people in Washington, one of their basic problems is to be reelected. They need to be reelected. And if they vote for what it takes to change this, they are not going to be reelected.
Well, Mayor, let me give you my honest opinion on that, okay? First, next week I go to my 49th state doing town hall meetings with a U.S. Senator. And soon I'll go to my 50th with a U.S. Senator. Nobody has talked to more Americans about this issue than I have, both in Washington and around the country. And what I find is that when the people are told the facts, the truth, and the need for tough choices, they get it. And the people are ahead of the politicians. And the politicians are a lag indicator. And you said something, you said if they want to be reelected. Part of the problem that we have is we have too many career politicians. Who may or may not have had a real job in the real world before they get elected.
Right.
For the record, he did. For the record, he did. But once they get their job, they want to stay there for life. That is not what the Founding Fathers intended. That is not in the interest of this country. And in my view, we need redistricting reform, we need open and integrated primaries, we need campaign finance reform, and we need 12 to 18-year term limits.
Yeah. A couple of the other things that are feeding a lot of this dysfunction is 24-hour media cycle, constant problem, constant interest group pressure on a narrower and narrower set of agendas that have lots and lots of money involved. Put all that in the mix, and that's what's creating a real cynicism right now that you're adequately reflecting.
One last thing on television. We have too many fact-free zones. Everybody's got an opinion. They want somebody on the right, and they want somebody on the left. They want arguments. We need nonpartisan options that can get bipartisan support. The facts aren't Republican.
This gentleman's been very patient.
I do not want to be a part of a generation that kills the American dream for my children and grandchildren. And I think the whole argument needs to be reframed as to a moral argument. This is generational theft. And so if we don't do something, then our kids, our grandkids, are not going to have the opportunities that we have. So what do you think about changing the argument? When people hear these numbers and so forth, they just kind of tune out. But if we can change it to a moral argument and say this is a big moral question, the biggest probably right now.
Well, for the record, I didn't ask you to ask that question. But I agree 110%, and in my book, Come Back America, and in the Restoring Fiscal Standard report, it hits this issue head on. The fact is, we are now in a situation where, for the first time in the history of the United States, the opportunities that we're passing on to our children and the standard of living that we're passing on to our children and grandchildren will be less than our own on our current path. That is un-American. Three things are happening today. We are mortgaging the future of our children and grandchildren at record rates. We are reducing investments in their future because investments are all in discretionary spending, and that's what's getting cut at a time that they're going to face a lot tougher competition in an increasingly competitive and interconnected world. That is immoral. At the same time, how you solve the problem involves moral questions too. We need to have a solvent, sustainable, secure social safety net, but we don't need to have a system that over-promises and over-subsidizes. We need to have adequate revenue to be able to fulfill our constitutional goals and deliver on promises, but not too much taxation to where we undercut economic growth. And normally when I do some town hall meetings, The last slide that I'll show is a picture of my 3 grandkids, because that's what it's all about. They don't have a vote, but it's about their future. So thank you for raising that. I totally agree.
Can I add a?
Yeah. You got 5 minutes.
Yeah, I got 5 kids, you're right. But I want to tell a quick story about one of my staff members who's actually here. He came to this country, he knew one word, Minneapolis. Came here, got to the Minneapolis airport, got in a high school exchange program, worked himself all the way through UNL Law School here. One of my top aides, it worked for me, and has just done it the hard way. He said something recently, he says, nothing wrong in America can't be fixed by what's right. I find that encouraging. Oh, I'm sorry. Yes, ma'am. Yes.
I just wondered if, Mr. Walker, if you have approached entities like public television, or I've seen you some on C-SPAN and CNN recently commenting on our current situation. But, you know, the kind of information you're sharing today is so valuable, and I agree that public opinion should be trusted enough to give us the facts, because we can make good decisions if we know what's at stake for ourselves, for our children, for our grandchildren. But we've got incredible communication systems in this country, and I'm a great believer in public television and public radio. I'd love to hear your message in not, you know, however much time we have today, but in a series, or in even a 2-hour or 4-hour thing, where you could lay it out and where
Probably need to
show
invite it back for a football game.
The halftime show. Well, first, I do PBS, I do NPR, I do lots of electronic. But let me tell you what we need. And I'm trying to get the White House and the leaders in Congress to do this. All right? My view is that we're not going to make a lot of the tough choices that have to be made until after the 2012 election. We're going to make some, hopefully, with this joint deficit reduction commission, and I've called for them to double their savings, to try to do $3 trillion rather than $1.5. But we're not going to do comprehensive Medicare, Medicaid, health care, Social Security, tax reform between now and 2012 because we don't have time, and because the political environment is not set up right. However, to get it done, we need an official public education and engagement effort that has nonpartisan facts. And what I've urged the White House to do is to take a page out of President Clinton's book. In 1998, he partnered with the Concord Coalition, AARP, America Speaks, me, and a few others. And we actually started going to several cities. The president or the vice president was there. Democrats and Republicans, elected officials were there. Nonpartisan facts, various options, debate the pros and cons. The public, it was demographically representative groups of the public. They had electronic confidential balloting systems. They could provide immediate feedback. And basically the purpose of that was to prepare the way for Social Security reform, which, by the way, I believe would have happened in 1999, but for the so-called blue dress incident, and I'll just leave it at that. All right? We need to take a page out of the book of that and do that because no matter who wins the Senate, no matter who wins the House, and no matter who wins the presidency in 2012, the public has to be meaningfully engaged in order for career politicians, predominantly today, to be able to make those tough choices without automatically losing their job. And so I think we need to take advantage of electronic media, social networking, you know, the tremendous capabilities that are there. But it needs to be an official kind of thing where people will pay more attention.